All right, so we have decided that we are going to make our wheels of our Ferris wheel the hexagon shape. And I want to go over how we lay out that shape geometrically so that you know, because you're going to need to get you a piece of cardboard that measures 5 inches by 5 inches. So we want to make sure that we are 5 inches by 5 inches on this piece of cardboard. So let me put this over here like this. Get some dimensions on here. Remember, in industry, we're looking at prints and we're got dimensions and measurements that we're needing to take off of this. Now, the first thing that we need to do, of course, is to find center. And as you recall, the quickest way to find center is to go crisscross from corner to corner. This works on a lot of different shapes. So this works on your squares, rectangles, octagons, hexagons, a lot of the shapes, so you can find center just by doing this and going crisscross across these different areas. Now, that gives us our center. We also, at this point, want to draw a line, a horizontal line right at the middle. So here I'm gonna say, all right, well, we know that this is 2.5, so I'm gonna make my mark here, and I'm gonna measure 2.5 inches on both keys. And then I'm going to come over and we're going to basically scribe that horizontal line. Now, as you think about this, the hexagon shape is shaped like this. And in this case, if we go from corner to corner, we know that each of these, if this is a true hexagon, each of these are 6 equilateral triangles. Well, what does that mean? So we've got the hexagon comprised of 6 equilateral, not sure if I spelled that right, you guys can check me, equilateral triangles on this. Now, equilateral means that all angles and all sides are equal. If you think about a triangle, we've got 3 sides and 3 angles. So the equilateral, all 3 sides, all 3 angles are the same. And we know then that this is going to be 60 degrees as far as our angle of measurement in there. And because we're using 5 by 5, that also means that from center out is also going to be 2.5 inches. Now, we can use that to help us find points on our 5 by 5 cardboard square. You're going to ask me, well, Mr. Curry, how am I going to do that? Well, again, if we know that from center here is 2.5 and here is 2.5, that means we're going to have lines coming up at 60 degrees, and we're going to need to know and place those lines too. Now, if I had a compass, I could place my compass on that line and I could mark my 60 degrees and my 120 degrees and we could come off there. I don't have a compass. All I have right now is my ruler here. So I'm going to use my ruler. And I know here that 5.5 inches is, but I want you to pay attention to me for a second. If I know that each side of the triangle is 2.5 inches, that means I know that I'm going to need a 2.5 inch side triangle up here, and I'm going to need a 2.5 inch side triangle down here. So how can I find an intersection point on each of those endpoints? So if I'm going to use the endpoints of those lines, how can I find the intersection point? Well, this is just some simple basic math here. I know my overall length up here is 5 inches. I subtract my 2.5 inches. That leaves me with 2.5 inches. Now, that means that half of 2.5 is going to be here, and half of 2.5 is going to be here. So I'm going to go back now, and we know half of 2.5 is 1.25. So I'm going to now measure 1.25 inches from here. So it actually comes out to be right here, and 1.25 inches from here. So a little bit different on this. So, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. So 1.25 and 1.25. So let's move this back, measure 1.25. Excuse me. Now I know I have my intersection points. So I'm going to scribe my line. So there we go. We kind of divided that square, that 5" by 5" square, into 6 different parts. But you'll notice the only ones that I have triangles are here and here. And those are perfectly equilateral triangles. I got to kind of figure out where my point comes in. Now, if I just connect these dots, let's take a look at this. If I just connect these dots, you'll notice that that is definitely not an equilateral triangle. Something is wrong there. Well, again, remember, if all sides are going to be the same, that means that all sides of the triangle have to measure 2½ inches. And if I measure from here to there, we see that's about 3 inches. And from here to here, so from measuring from center to there, that's even longer. That's about 3¼ inches. So what's going on here? Well, what's really going on here is that I need to also take some measurements and make these lines 2½ inches as well. So I'm going to now make my 2½ inch mark here. So I'm going to come here and make my 2½ inch mark here. So that's the actual intersection point. Even this. So we're going to come up here now. So our equilateral triangle, our hexagon shape, is going to go right here like this. And we're making all of these line lengths 2½ inches. We'll do the same thing up here. So I'm going to go 2½ inches back. So it's going to intersect right there. 2½ inches back this way. So it's going to intersect right there. Now I'm connecting these dots. Notice I'm going to get some waste. So we're going to have some waste here, if you think about it. So I am going to make a cut here, and I'm going to have scrap here, and we'll have some scrap up there on our overall hexagon to get this shape correct. So now if I was a manufacturer, I wouldn't want that waste. So rather than having this be 5 by 5, I would kind of use what I know to figure out what the overall height here would be. And again, that's where whatever that's going to be, we're not exactly sure what that dimension is, but this, again, we could use some more advanced math, some trigonometry. We could actually calculate this out and figure what that would be, so we would know what the size of our card would be. But this is how we're going to get the hexagon shape. So go ahead and you can practice laying this out. You're going to need 2 of these. Now, notice, so here is our hexagon for our Ferris wheel that we're going to be making. So notice how it's got the triangles in the middle that are cut out there too. So in order to do that, what you're going to have to do is kind of come back in, and we're going to say we're going to measure 1/2 inch. So if we kind of come in 1/2 inch, we call that, we offset that line. So you can measure and make that 1/2 inch. And then on these insides, we're going to go 1/4 inch from each of these lines, going both ways. So 1/4 inch from each of these lines. So it's going to get a little bit complicated when you lay that out. But make sure that you lay that out so that you 1/4 inch off of the center lines. So 1/2 inch off of the outside lines, so that you will get this laid out, and then you'll know exactly where you can cut at to make your hexagon, or make your hexagon here. So to get your Ferris wheel started. And of course, don't forget, before you start to color this in, take a center point right there, take your pencil and just make a little, input your pencil in there so we have a little hole started for where the center is. So go ahead and get started. You're going to need 2 of these, so make sure you get 2 of these made up for class so that we can have these for our Ferris wheel.